Good morning, and welcome to this edition of Joe on the Job Site with my guest, Terrance Currans. Terrance, welcome. Thank you for coming today and sitting with us.
No, thank you for having me.
So, you've had some interesting paths in your life. Share us how you got to where you're at now.
Well, it's very interesting how the industry today and what we're in, and I kind of fell into it, as most of the people I know have fell into this job because I don't think, throughout high school or anytime even before that, people really kind of talked about working in the construction industry. It wasn't really a thing, but I also feel like you kind of go wherever your family starts. So
Now,
my,
you said you were from New York.
yep, Long Island, New York.
Did they have industrial art programs or things like that in high school where you could take a wood shop or metal or anything like that?
Yeah, I was very much a hands-on guy. So wood shop was my class. I very much loved that.
Cool. And so, you what else happened to you while you were in high school, and what kind of things were you doing that led up to where you're at today?
Well, I think kind of what led me to where I am today, all kind of rolling back a little bit, started when I was about 12 years old. So I'm one of 14. I have 13 brothers
14
and
kids?
sisters. Yeah, 13
Okay.
brothers and sisters.
Your mother was had a job before with 14 kids.
Oh, yes. I very much had a job for it, but I'm the second oldest. I'm the oldest boy. And I remember at 12, I went to my dad and I said, "Hey, can I get 20 bucks?" Because I needed it for swim team or something was going on at that time. And my dad said, "Hey, man, get a job." So I was like, "All right." I was like, "Get a job." Well, across the street from our house was a butcher shop. And I went over there and I asked the gentleman that owned it, John and Terry, and I said, "Hey, John, can I get a job?" And he said, "Well, when you can see over the counter, you can have a job." So I literally went every day because you can imagine with 14 kids, you need milk every morning. So I went over every day to go get the gallon of milk, and I would measure my eyesight to see over the counter. And finally, when I was able to see over it, I said, "John, I can see over the counter," and he gave me a job. And I worked for him from 12 until I was about 25. And I started out just sweeping up and cleaning up, and from there, just worked my way into being a full-fledged butcher by the time I was about 17.
Wow.
But I mean, in the interim of doing that, I was on the swim team. I was a cross country runner. I was very much into sports, and I wanted to kind of follow my dad's footsteps. I have a long history of family with the NYPD, and it was just something that I always wanted to do. But my dad said, as you work through life, kind of figure out what specialties you want to do. So with that, I wanted to being in the swim team, I wanted to work on the boat. I wanted to work in the drink and be on the Hudson every day, just plucking people out of the water. So
So
my
you wanted
dad,
to be a diver?
I wanted to be a diver. And my
Yeah.
dad said, you got to become a scuba diver. So they signed the paper for me to do when I was 12 and just started diving. And I fell in love with it. It's the best experience you'll ever feel in your life. I know you're a diver too. So
I am.
you know that experience.
I'm certified in cavern, cave, open water, and advanced. I worked a lot of hours in construction underwater, helping the projects, putting in floats, sealing cofferdams, moving things in the water. Never did weld. I didn't have an interest in that, but I loved being under the water, and I did a lot of dives around the country and in the Caribbean.
One of the best dives I ever had was in the Bahamas, and we went down. My buddy and I, who got certified at the same time with me, his parents, we were both on the swim team. And his parents said, "Sign him up too, get him in the water." And we were in the Bahamas. We were diving. We were down about 65 feet, and all of a sudden it got really cloudy. And I'm like, wow, and then we started feeling some movement and we came up and a storm blew over the top of us. But the best part, we were down there for like a good 30 minutes and didn't even know that we were about to be plucked out of the water because as they were coming over on the wake, they were pulling us into the boat because we couldn't even climb up the ladder. It was moving so hard up there, but it was the best experience ever.
One of my best experiences was diving in Cayman Islands. I went down there for a week and we snorkeled the reef. We did catamaran dives. And I hooked up with a guy and he turned me on to the cheese whiz that's in the can. We're out swimming. There's no one around. I'm sorry, there's no fish. You don't see any fish. We're like, Lord. As soon as we popped the button on that thing, when the little cheese started squirting out, all the colored fish came around, started eating it as fast as it could come out. And you had to hold your thumb down, otherwise they'd be eating the end of your thumb off. I got pictures of it. I thought it was great.
I'm gonna have to try that next time I go diving.
Yeah, they will come around.
I'm gonna have to do that.
So while you were training and as a certified diver, did you go farther into diving and do any additional?
Yeah, I went for my advanced diving and then for open water. And then I went to public safety and I went to eventually into rescue diving because that was the goal was to be on the boat. So I wanted to have it ready to go when the NYPD called for me to join.
And how? So you've had lifeguard training,
Yep.
if I understand, open water advanced training, swim team, diver specialty diver training, and now you're ready to go uh, assist in the water recoveries. Uh, you mentioned something earlier about a fire department.
Yeah, so I volunteered as a firefighter. So basically, Nassau County is all volunteer. So at 18, and I'm a fourth generation volunteer. So at 18 years old, it was, hey, basically civil service was my family. I remember I turned 18. My dad said, take the NYPD test, take every test possible, give yourself options to get out there. Said, all right, my grandfather, who was a volunteer for Garden City Fire Department with 50 years, he said, hey, join the fire department. It's worth it, while you're going to school. And I loved it so much. I knew I wanted to be a cop. I knew I wanted to be a volunteer firefighter. That was just the way of life it was for my family. So when
That's a
I
good way of life.
yeah, it was. It very rewarding. You had your good days, you had your bad days, but it's very much a camaraderie with your brothers and your sisters, even for life. I mean, I've been down here in Florida, moved down here in 2018, and I still volunteer as a firefighter up in New York. I go up, I ride the rig. I do get told every time I need to make sure I buzz down my beard when I get up there. But I joined it in 2006, and I hit 20 years in September, and it's the best feeling of my life.
I was a volunteer firefighter in Okolona, Kentucky, and we had to do a lot of training. And you could advance all the way up. Uh, they didn't have EMTs back then, but you had first responder training that they gave us. And some of the best times that I had is when you had somebody that was hurting and you could give them aid, comfort them, and let them know it's going to be okay. And you'd be surprised at what that does for a person who's in need or in a lot of pain.
Yeah, I mean, when I joined the fire department, I was all very gung ho of I'm never going to be an EMT. No, thank you. I just want to fight fires. I don't want to be on the ambulance. And I learned very quickly my first week when they turned around and said, "Hey, Proby, there's an ambulance call. Get on the bus." I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're not just here to fight fires. You're here for there. Yeah, anytime somebody needs help, we go." And I learned within the first 6 months of like, okay, if I'm going to be on here all the time, I want to actually be able to help. So I went to the chief and I said, Chief, I want to go to EMT school. And he's like, well, we don't usually put firefighters through EMT school at the same time. You think you could do it? And I was like, sir, I can. I was like, I'll dedicate my time. I want to do it. And he signed the papers and away I went. I went to EMT school and I fell in love with it.
How long it was in EMT school back then?
EMT school was 6 months back
Okay.
then. And then from there, you can go to advanced EMT CC, and then you can go to paramedic. And as soon as I got done with EMT basic, after about a year, I was like, I want to do more. So I want to be more involved. Now I'm a full-fledged firefighter and an EMT. And I said, I know there's more opportunities there.
So what is the difference between an EMT and a paramedic?
So EMTs are basic. So we do a lot of pre-hospital care, but it's a lot of trauma experience, how to support anybody. You do have some kinesiology background. You understand a little bit about how to treat somebody to get them for pre-hospital care to save them. But then you get into your paramedic and you could start doing EKGs, you could start doing narcotics, medications, IVs. So you really start to help people at that point because now you could do advanced long-term transports. Anything's happening, you can get a lot more pre-hospital care in there. And I remember I had one of my instructors, Tommy. This guy was crazy. My first day of EMT school, walked in the door, and he was very much if you didn't know where things were in the bag, he'd make you do 5 push-ups
Been
and do it
there.
with you. And but he was a paramedic, and he turned around and he's like, I'll make a bet with you guys today that I will see almost half of this class within my program within a year that you'll be applying. And sure was. A year later, I picked up the phone and said, "Sir, I want to go. I want to get into your next CC class. How do I get in?" And he's like, "Get an application, put it together, have the chief sign it." I went to the chief and he said, "You want to go fire officer first?" And I was like, I want to go CC first. Let me get into that class." And that class was about a year long.
The CC class,
CC class
which
was
is
about a year
critical
long,
care.
critical care. And that was very rewarding, working in there, understanding it, because I got to do a lot more hands-on. I got to sit through a brain surgery because I had to work on intubation and working with one of the doctors at the hospital and trauma. He's like, "Hey, we're going to do a brain surgery. You want to go and intubate this guy beforehand if he signs off?" I walked up to this guy and I said, "Hey, I'm a student. I need to do a certain amount of intubations, which is put the tube down your throat, and I need to do a certain amount. Are you okay if I do your intubation?" Guy's like, "Well, they told me it's a 50-50 chance I'm going to survive this surgery. So sure, why not?" And he signed the waiver, and I got to sit in on that brain surgery and watch them pull the little bit that he had coming out of his brain that was for a brain tumor. It was like the size of a marble, but that was the coolest experience. 10 hours of standing there watching this and just watching the doctors do their work.
Wow. So did you go into any other training while you were a volunteer fireman?
I did. I became a hazard. So I went into hazmat, became a hazmat technician. I worked my way into starting to understand fire science. So I did go to college. I started, I didn't complete college, but one of the reasons for that was my company kind of took off at that point and other opportunities were there. But I went to school to study fire science, arson investigation. And I really just kind of fell in love with that career of understanding what to do and how to help people. And at that point, the NYPD understanding where I was going to go, I wanted to have more options for them. So whether it was going to go work on the bomb squad or ESU pick you up. And that's why my dad just said, give yourself options. So anywhere I could go to school to learn about something, I wanted to get my hands on and just educate myself.
So to up to this point, you've been through like 6 different specialty trainings.
Yes,
Did you have a mentor or someone along the way in these areas, like the lifeguard, the scuba, the diver training, and the EMT and the fire training? Do you have a mentor that kind of helped you through?
I did. I will say, just growing up with 12, 13 brothers and sisters, what really kind of changed things was my grandfather. So his name was Edward Tacky. And I'll never forget when I joined the volunteer fire department, he told me, you volunteer to join, you volunteer to leave. When you're in there, it's a paramilitary organization. And he goes, "You're going to have really bad bosses." He goes, "In life, no matter where you go." He goes, "The difference is you respect the rank. You don't have to respect the man or the woman sitting behind that shield, but you have to respect the rank." And that really kind of set a mindset for me of I didn't care if I had a bad boss or if I had a bad experience. What it changed for me was, okay, then go become the boss. You don't like it, don't fight back. Just say, "Yes, sir." Move on and just become the boss. Outplay them. Make it to the next level.
And that's a compliment to a lot of people who are training you. If you make it above their level, that shows that they succeeded.
It did. And I always felt that way because Tommy Scherzer, who I had with me, he was one of my instructors for lifeguarding. And he told me day one, he's like, "Boy, you love to swim." I was like, "Yes, I do." And he goes, "Well, you can't always outswim the rescue. You got to actually be there for the rescue." He's like, "So pay attention when you're just swimming in the water. Get your head up and actually look where you're coming into." And I'll never forget that because one of the calls I had was a little crazy. We had a woman that was drowning at the beach, and I turned around and jumped into the water. I pulled up, and little did I know if I had not had that hyper focused vision of just looking at the one, I wouldn't have realized there was another person. So everybody went in. They were like, "It's one, it's one, it's one." And it turns out it's two. And it's very true in a situation. There's a mom and a daughter, and it's life. Everybody's fighting for their life. And I felt so bad for this girl because the mom is basically drowning the daughter while trying to stay afloat.
The mom
The
was?
mom was.
Wow.
And when we get in there, I turn around, and so we had our PFD, our personal flotation device. I handed it to the daughter, And I tried to grab the mom and just basically get the mom off the daughter and go from there. And the next, I get 24 stitches up my back because mom is attacking me to push me into the water.
I have had that happen. I have only been trained. I grew up in the country. We swam in anything we could swim in, and we became good swimmers. And when I came down here, I did a certified diver, and I was out at some friend's house, and we were on a lake with ski-doos, and one of them had turned over, and I was close, and the lady that was on it fell off, and she hit the water. And I thought, well, I'm going to go help her. The lady climbed on top of me and almost stood on my shoulders to keep herself out of water. And the only way I got away from it was I squatted down and I felt my feet hit the bottom of the lake. And then I shot off to the side, and I was getting short on air. It was getting close. Anyway, by the time I got to the top of the water, there were some other people that had came to help. And yeah, the training, lifeguard training means a lot because you know how to handle that. And I didn't, but I made it through.
I'll tell you, that was one thing that they went over and over and over and over again in class was they used to tell us like have each other attack each other in the pool. And the first thing he said is after a couple days of doing this, he's like, none of you have figured it out. And we're like, what? And he goes, you have the moment, stay calm, take a deep breath, grab that sucker and drag him down. He goes, because eventually they let go. Because what do they want to do?
They want to go up.
He goes, they're going to let go. So that's exactly what happened. While this woman's jumping all over the top of me, I just turned around and said, okay, grab the breath, grabbed the hold of her as she was holding on to me and flipped her over and down we went. Kick, 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 kick until she let go. Let go. See you later. Pulled the daughter in. My other partner came up, grabbed mom. We get in there. She's very apologetic, but it was definitely an experience of like, wow, you got to wake up. Don't have tunnel vision.
Yeah. And training helps you.
And training helps you, especially in situations like that.
So you said you went through fire science. What kind of training was that?
So it was really cool. It was understanding just different variations of fire and how to fight fire, but also understanding arson. Like, what does it take for an arsonist to be able to set fires? Which we actually did have an arsonist at one of my years when we were sitting there fighting fires. We had one year, one summer, with just in a matter of like 3 weeks, we had almost 14 fires and just different departments around us. And they finally came out and said, like, hey, we have an arsonist. And it turned out it was actually one of the volunteers that was on the department too.
Wow.
And this kid was setting fires, brand new to the department, not my department, but to another department. And they ended up catching him and arresting him. And it was pretty interesting to see that a lot of my brothers and sisters, because we were all in the class together, it was just understanding like, hey, there's a lot of different things going on here that made us understand a little bit more that there was more to this fire than met the eye, because it wasn't your typical fires that we're pulling up to.
So in the science, you would look at what started it or the cause or
Understanding the patterns, different type of smoke scenarios, your typical house right now, with all the new material and even back 20 years ago, the material that they're putting into there, they used to say the rule of thumb was that you had 5 minutes when you pulled up on scene to be able to start actually putting an interior attack, put out that fire. Now it's like down to 2
That's good.
because all of it's good in a way, but bad in another because you really only have 2 minutes to get in there because all of the gases that are offsetting from all this synthetic material that everything's being built. I mean, think about just like my grandmother's couch. It used to have all the plastic over it. You couldn't sit on top
Yeah.
of it. It was very heavy, heavy couches. Now you can move a couch by yourself.
Yep,
So
and the
the
fabric will
material,
wear forever.
exactly. Now it like rips in a second.
You know, I have a little bit of experience with fire science. When I was younger, I worked for a company and we went to houses that had caught on fire and cleaned them up and rebuilt them if they weren't torn down. This one particular house had a gas heater that was in the floor in the center of the house, and you had all the rooms shot off of it. And the fire science guy for the city police or city fire department was out there, and we walked through it, and he had to sign our paper saying we could go to work on it. And he's taking us in the house and telling us a little bit about it. And I looked up and I saw this light bulb, and it had melted, and it was a dribble going that way. And he said, "You see that? That's where the fire started, because the way the glass in the light is so sensitive to heat in that much distance that it melted and pointed to the fire, because that's where it got liquid from. It made it liquid." And we were in the house working, and there's a phone on the wall on the outside of the building, and outside of the house, and it had melted and shrunk down about 2 or 3 feet, and it rang.
That's
So
pretty cool.
I'm a young teenager just getting into it. I go over and hello, and I answered the phone, and there was a person on it. I said, "No, they're okay, but you'll have to find out where they're at." And I told him that everything's fine with them. Told him what happened, and I hung up the phone. I got the name of that phone, and that's what I bought for the rest of my life, because that was one tough phone.
That is one tough phone. I
Yeah.
mean, to be able to survive a fire.
Oh,
But
let me tell you, fires or something else. As a volunteer fireman, whether it's in a traffic or a house or something, and you mentioned the guy that was a habitual at setting fires. One of the times we answered a call, it was a full, I think they rolled 2 or 3 units, and it was fully engulfed house fire. When we pulled up, you couldn't see the house. You could not see the house. It was just covered with smoke. Long story short, by the time the captain and all the things, they made their calls and we got to it, there was a guy sitting on the front porch. He was drunk, and he was lighting the cigarettes and throwing them into the couch and through the window and everything, and nothing was burning. It was all just smoldering. So the good thing about that couch is it wasn't flammable. It smoldered, but it wasn't flammable. So after you went through the training that you've had, what was your next step that you did?
Well, so it was an interesting time. Right around then, my dad said take the test for everybody. NYPD, I started the process to get hired from them, and then they froze the academy class. So here I am getting ready to start, and they froze the academy class. Then they came back and said, "Hey, we're going to put a very small academy class in, but the salary is going to drop significantly." At this point, I had already became a CC. I'm working on the ambulance. I'm volunteer firefighter. I'm going to college. And my dad, who was with the NYPD for 29 years, and my uncles and aunts are all like, "Hey, you know what? Don't take the job right now. Wait, like
Because they
don't
knew
go."
it would go back
They
up.
knew it'll go back up eventually. They're like, "Just hang out and wait." So I said, "All right." And my dad's like, "Hey, man, there's more to life than volunteering as a firefighter and working on the ambulance. 48 hours."
No, but
And
it was fun.
it was fun.
It was an interesting job.
It was very much, and he's like, "You gotta figure something out. Like, what are you gonna do, just in case it takes a couple of years? Like, what's your plan?" And I said, "You know what? At this point, Craigslist was actually, more than just, missed opportunities. It was put your resume up there." So I turned around and put my resume on Craigslist, and I get this interesting phone call from a Jackie Griffin, and she's a recruiter for Amphibious Medics. And she goes, "Hey, I see that you're a rescue diver and that you're an EMT, and I got this movie set, and we're working on this thing called Tough Mudder. Or would you have an interest in going ahead and working this movie set?" And I was like, "Movie set? That sounds pretty cool." And she's like, "Yeah, you're going to be an EMT on a movie set." I'm like, "Oh, sweet. I'm going to go work in it." So I worked on Project Runway was the TV show at that point, and I went and worked in Manhattan and doing this on my days off. When I was not in school, I was sitting there studying and just working on movie sets around all these
So
people.
you just hung around in case they needed.
Somebody got hurt, they pick up the phone and they call us. And one of my very first calls, the funniest thing that ever happened to me on a movie set was I get a phone call and they're like, "We need the medic. We need a medic right now." And they're calling me on my cell phone and calling me on the radio. And I'm like, "Okay, which one do I answer first?" So I answer the radio and they're like, "We need you right now." And it's like 2 block run over to where these people are. So I'm like, okay, I am hauling with my bag, running over to this place because they're like, "We need emergency. We need an emergency." And I'm like, okay. So I get there and I'm like, "Where's the emergency?" And the woman turns around and she hands me a water bottle and says, "Do you have emergency?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like,
Oh my
"Emergency?"
Lord.
the little packet you can put into here. I need a little pick me up. And I'm like, girl, I just ran 2 city blocks over here for an emergency. And she's like, yes, do you have it? I'm like, I'll go to CVS for you. And I walked down the stairs and went back down and grabbed her a packet of emergency from CVS and walked back up, ordering a water bottle. And I was like, well, this is the life of being an EMT on a movie set.
Wow, that's something else.
But it was an experience because Jackie gave me my first opportunity working for something a little bit different. Because even in every industry, like think about construction, all the different opportunities are in construction.
Yeah.
I was now working on a movie set as an EMT. I never even thought that was a thing to be.
I worked on movie sets. I don't ever remember seeing an EMT, but I remember the food truck was really good.
Oh yeah, Kraft was definitely my best friend on all those sets, especially for a lot of them. But it eventually worked its way into working the Tough Mudder and the Spartan races.
So what is a Tough Mudder?
So Tough Mudder, you do a 12-mile course, and they have different obstacles throughout the course. But we had EMTs, paramedics, lifeguards, divers working on this, and I remember my first one was in Ohio, and she turned around and she's like, "Hey, can you get like 12 of your buddies to go camping for the weekend to go work this Tough Mudder race?" So I looked at all my buddies and I'm like, "Hey, they're gonna rent us a van. We're gonna drive to Ohio and we're gonna go work this event. They're gonna pay us and they're gonna feed us, and then maybe we'll have a couple drinks at a campfire afterwards." And they were like, "Yeah, let's go." So we all piled in a van and we drove 12 hours. Well, it kind of sparked for Mike Donahue, who's the CEO of the company. I met him at this event, and he turned around and he's like, "So I heard you're the New York guy." And I was like, "I am the New York guy." And he goes, "How do you like working on our sets?" And I was like, "I love it. It's pretty cool." He's like, "So what's your goals? What's your plans?" And I was like, "Well, NYPD calls and they pay the money. I'm in. Like, that's where I'm going to go." And he's like, "All right." He goes, "Well, what about other things for us?" And I was like, "Well, if there's ever an opportunity, I'd love to see like what I could do more with the company." Again, I just had that mindset of like, what can I do more? And that led into construction medics and us working on construction sites.
So this guy, did he own a construction company that got you into it, or
No,
was he
he
just doing movies
he
or
was doing
filming?
movie sets, working on production sets, working on Tough Mudder races, and then we get a phone call from Whiting Turner, and they say, "Hey, we need to have a construction medic at a job site in Las Vegas." And he's like, "All right, I could put an EMT on there." And the program was really just EMTs sitting on a construction site. Somebody gets hurt, we treat them versus going urgent care. And my first one was out on Long Island at Winthrop Hospital. And he's like, "Hey, you're going to work with Lend Lease. You're going to be at this job site, Winthrop Hospital. Somebody gets hurt, you treat them." Well, I couldn't sit there at a desk. So I went to the safety manager and I was like, "Joe, Safety Joe, tell me, what do I need to do to be able to go out on the job site?" And he goes, "You got to get an OSHA 30. And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "What happens then?" He goes, "Well, then I'll allow you to walk the job site." And I was like, "Okay, what else do I need?" And he goes, "Well, you walk with me." So I said, "Okay." So I went, I got my OSHA 30. I said to him, "What else do I need to do?" And he's like, "Well, let's go walk." So as we went on, I'm like, "What else should I get?" He goes, "Go get HazWhopper. Go get your 4-hour
Yep.
scaffolding card." I'm like, "Well, I'm a hazmat technician." He goes, "Go get HazWhopper." "Okay, sir. Go get HazWhopper."
Yep. They had us in HazWhopper.
And it just went from there. So we went from EMT sitting at a desk to now we were assistant EHS professionals working on a job site. So we were helping hand out hot work permits, inspecting hot work permits. Did everybody turn them in at the time? I just started learning more and more and more about what we can do to help build the program. And of course, every safety professional is like, "I'd love to have an assistant. So how do I get an assistant?" Well, now you got one, because I could not
You
sit
became
there.
the
I
assistant.
became his assistant to whatever he needed, except for getting him coffee, but he was always good about that.
I don't know. Sometimes it's good to bring coffee once in a while on their
Oh,
bad days.
he was that guy that would drink coffee, and I still have it in my phone, and I tell all of my guys and girls that work for me, like, understand what your best friend is. And he used to drink an extra large Dunkin' Donuts coffee with 7 sugars in it.
That's
And I'm
it.
like, "Dude, that is a lot of sugar." It's like, gotta keep moving. That's the way it was.
Well, some days the construction sites they get long, and you need that extra little bit of jolt to get up. Sometimes you work till 2 in the morning. you don't get to come in late the next day. You better be there at 6:30, 6, 7, whatever the time their starts are the next morning. They don't say, oh, I'm going to get a few hours sleep. Nope. And that coffee has woken me up many a times and kept me going.
Yes,
I just have to quit about 3:00. So if I do get to go to sleep that night, I'm not up with the coffee.
at this point, I think coffee is so ingrained into my blood that it doesn't really even keep me awake anymore. I have a full cup of coffee and I can go to sleep 5 minutes later. I think
My
it's more of that comfort level.
my father-in-law was that way. So you're with the Amphibious Group and uh, you're providing a service now at this time,
Yes.
correct?
So our service is more than just, sit here at a desk. We worked our way in from being the medics to treat anybody, health and wellness, preventative care, assistant EHS professionals, safety coordinator essentially level. And then we wanted more. So that's how we fell into safety. My biggest thing is, again, I couldn't stop learning. So I wanted to go get my CHST. I went and got my 500. I went and got my 510. I wanted to understand more of what do we do. So within circling back to our group, that's where we decided we needed to get to the next level of providing a service. And that's how we went into being more than just that vendor and being a partner.
Being a partner. Now, you mentioned earlier college. Did you do any kind of specialty college training for this?
For safety, no, I didn't do anything for safety on that aspect. I mean, it kind of followed along with what I was doing from fire science, understanding the aspect of the business, and then arson investigation. A lot of investigative tactics. So I felt like that kind of helped me into the safety aspect of it because a lot of safety is looking into what happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than just preventative. It's also reactive. And I felt like that kind of helped give me a good little foundation to work into where I am today.
Well, and that's good because you've made your way along. You've understood, you've seen, you've taken what you've learned. It's brought you in different directions and you've picked a path now. And sounds like you're pretty happy with it.
Very happy.
So now, from what I understand, well, I'm just going to ask instead of trying to guess and saying it wrong, but what is your title at the current time?
So I'm the chief operating officer and the acting principal. So the acting president of the company.
Okay. What is your work? What are you involved doing for your day-to-day work?
A lot of my day-to-day work is just understanding where programs are for our companies. How do we support all of our members? I mean, we have 318 employees all around the country, and we want to make sure that they have a job every day. So meeting with clients, client satisfaction. I have directors and vice presidents that work for me, and just trying to understand how to better support them to make sure that they have everything they need to provide a valuable service.
So right now you have the opportunity to make change, to mentor people, to set up standards and help people grow. And is posted here on the board, be the big brother, sister for the people coming up or the people that you talk to. So I'd like to have you come back. I need to go walk the job and take a few minutes and maybe about an hour or so, if you wouldn't mind coming back. Like to sit down and hear some of the effects and changes and mentorships and programs that you have in mind to expand the company and help it grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to go for a walk.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
This is Joe with another edition of Joe on the Job Site. Thank you.